the Health Commissioner of Philadelphia, and today is the American Cancer Society's Great American Smokeout. This is the day when all of us encourages everybody we know who's still a smoker to quit for one day, and then to make a plan for when they're going to quit permanently. Why are we doing this? Because smoking is the #1 killer here in Philadelphia. For all the other health problems we're addressing, we estimate that smoking-related diseases kill 3,600 people per year in this city. An incredible number. So remember today, whatever else you do, ask your friends and your family members and your coworkers, everybody you know, to talk to everyone that they know who's still smoking and ask them to quit, at least for today, and then think about what they can do permanently to quit. Now, I'm not the only one who's asking this today. I'm joined today by state representatives, by sorority and fraternity leaders, by labor leaders, and community activists. And our message today is not just for smokers to quit smoking. We also have a message to the larger community to help prevent our children from becoming the next generation of smokers. So let me explain. Over the years, smoking rates in Philadelphia have fallen quite a bit. If you go a few decades ago, 50% of adults here smoked. It's now 22%, which is still far too high, but that's a lot less than 50%. Among teenagers, about 30% used to smoke cigarettes. Now that's down to about 7% smoking cigarettes. All that fall is good news, but for tobacco companies, that's not good news. And so they are losing customers, and so they are taking steps to try to keep up sales. And among the things that they've done to try to keep up sales is that they infuse their tobacco products with chemicals that are flavorings. They do this to get customers and to keep customers so that they can keep making money. And because 90% of smokers start before the age of 18, that means that they are mostly targeting kids. Now, the two types of flavorings we want to talk about today. There are candy flavorings, and there's a flavoring called menthol. Let's talk about them each in turn. Let's talk about candy flavorings first. So you can go into stores all over Philadelphia, and you can get cigarillos flavored with candy flavors like fruit punch, in this case, or watermelon, or French vanilla. The chemicals that are used to flavor this are the same chemicals that appear in candy. They're the same chemicals that are in Jolly Ranchers and Lifesavers and Kool-Aid. It's candy flavors. And they're also sold 4 for 99 cents or 5 for 99 cents. So these are the penny candy of tobacco products. They're deliberately meant to attract kids. And this is why cigar smoking is rising so fast among teenagers in Philadelphia. I said a minute ago that cigarette smoking rates among teenagers in Philadelphia were at 7%. Cigar smoking has risen from 6% to 11%. Among African American teens, it's rising even faster. So in 2011, 5% of African American teens smoked cigars. Now it is, in 2015, it is 12%, so more than doubled in just 4 years. Now the candy flavors get kids started. Another flavor helps keep people smoking, and that's a flavor called menthol. So, menthol is a chemical that's used in cough drops. What it does is it numbs up the back of your throat so you don't notice the irritation that's making you cough. It's not a bad thing if you got a cold, but that is a bad thing if what's irritating you is tobacco smoke, because the tobacco smoke is doing damage to your airways. So putting menthol in cigarettes makes it easier for teenagers to start smoking and harder for people to quit. In fact, teens who start using menthol products are twice as likely to become long-term smokers. Now, another thing about menthol is that, first let me make clear, so menthol makes tobacco more addictive. That's why they use it. But menthol products are also targeted specifically to African Americans. If you don't believe me, just go to any African American neighborhood in Philadelphia and look at the posters for the cigarettes that are being advertised outside of bodegas. You're going to see Newport, you're going to see Salem, you're going to see Kool, all the ones in the green box. Okay, these are menthol cigarettes that are targeted specifically to African Americans, and these are what keeps people smoking. So these flavorings are dangerous. These are getting our kids hooked and keeping them hooked. By the way, Every product you see on the table here is a tobacco product that was purchased by somebody under the age of 18 here in Philadelphia, because we test that out, the laws, and send in underage youth to stores to see if they are obeying the law and not selling to teens. But they were able to successfully buy these products, which is against the law. So to retailers will say, you don't need to worry about these products, we don't sell to kids, but they routinely do sell to kids, or we wouldn't have these products here. So we are raising the concerns about flavorings here today because we don't want our children to be the next generation of smokers. So that's our second message today for the community. If our message to individual smokers today is quit, our message to the community is let's get these flavorings out of Philadelphia. Now, we have a number of people here today who represent the much broader community to give you a sense of the depth of the concern about these flavorings in Philadelphia. First, I want to turn it over to Aisha Richardson, who is the representative of the Office of the State Representative, Emilio Vasquez.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of State Representative Emilio Vasquez, representing the 197th Legislative District, which is a primarily Latino and African American district of about 66,000 people. I'm here to talk about legacy, the legacy of tobacco for centuries picked by the enslaved, and now killing those free of the physical shackles, but now bound in a cycle of addiction to tobacco products laced with additives designed to shackle our children to a life of poor health and outcomes. My mother smoked in her 30s. For about 10 years, she smoked a pack a day. She's now in her 70s and has chronic bronchitis. The representative's mother was exposed to secondhand smoke, and she recently had a debilitating stroke and now requires 24-hour care. Menthol cigarette advertisements have historically exploited cultural traditions to strategically target African American youth, including Black History Month, the Black Power movement, and hip-hop culture for decades. This is the very definition of a social justice issue, and now is the time to fight back against big tobacco for the future of our children and for the communities of color. African American communities are not the only communities of color that have been subjected to this strategic and manipulative marketing. Hispanic and Latino communities have also been victimized by extensive tobacco industry marketing of menthol tobacco products. This includes important cultural and historical events that have been co-opted to sell this lethal and addictive drug to our children and to our communities. The time is now for us all to stand up for our children and our communities, to tell the tobacco industry to stand down. Our children's futures is off limits and not the property of an industry that wants addiction, disease, and death rather than promise potential and success for our next generation and for our parents. Thank you.
So we have with us here the president of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, Omega Omega chapter. Am I right? Is that you, Ms. Hall? All right. We have Carol Parkinson Hall, who, as I said, is the president of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, Omega Omega chapter. This is a national sorority with a very large chapter here in Philadelphia, and she's next to speak.
Good morning. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated was founded on the campus of Howard University 1908, just a few generations after slavery. These courageous women decided that they were going to start something that has lived throughout the times. Here in Philadelphia, we have been doing community service and reaching out and making lives better for others for 91 years. So we're proud of that. And it's in that spirit that I stand before you today, speaking out against a travesty that has plagued our communities, especially our young people who don't have a voice. So we're challenged to be the voice for them. And in that, they're called hood raps. Have you all heard of that? Hood raps. So good, so hood. And our children are learning that like a nursery rhyme. We can't allow that to happen because we know all of the ills that smoking, even secondhand smoking, has on families and how it impacts our communities. And so the way in which they're marketed with these flavors that are attractive and attracting our young people, it can't be. So we have been here for 91 years because we have been the voice of the voiceless. And these children, a lot of them African American and Latino, they go to the corner stores and they're right there by the candy. We can't allow this to happen. And so we are asking that everyone rally around any bills, any legislation that would stop this from happening in our community, because indeed it takes a village, and our children are definitely our future, and we want them to replace us one day. So we have to do everything we can to make sure that they have healthy and whole lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We also have with us today Ethelyn Baylor, who is the Vice President of AFSCME District Council 47.
Good morning, everyone. I am Ethelyn Baylor, as Dr. Farley said, Vice President of AFSCME District Council 47, our technical and professional trade union here in Philadelphia. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, grew up in West Philadelphia, where I had a corner store on both corners of my block. My father was a postal worker, and my father smoked every day. Now, I'm going to tell on myself because I feel it's very important, so my mother and father are hearing this for the very first time. But I can recall as a child one day going to school, stopping at the corner store, and purchasing a box of cigarettes similar to this, but it was candy cigarettes. It was long white sticks with a red tip. And although you did not get a smoke out of it, whenever you put it to your lips like this, you would get a little puff. Now, thank God I did not turn into a smoker. But I know many of my peers did end up smoking, and not only did they end up smoking because of peer pressure, but they also grew up smoking because their parents did it. I'm here today to stand because this is not only an issue in African American communities, this is a worker issue. This is a worker issue when we talk about health care costs and the idea that when people smoke, it impacts their health. It has a very big impact on their health. So with these candy flavored products, kids can go into the store. Hookahs are becoming very popular too. So even though we talk about the menthol products and we talk about the flavor candy, hookah, you can go into a corner store now in African American communities and there are hookah products right next to the candy. It's very enticing for our kids. When our kids go to the corner store, there are advertisements that are very enticing that says, to them the image is, it's very cool to smoke. We need to be very mindful of the idea of advertisements in our community that are very enticing for our kids, the fact that these products are being sold right next to candy, and we have to do something about it. So today I stand as labor, but I stand with Dr. Farley, I stand with the sorority and fraternities that are here today, as well as community people who I'm sure are going to get engaged because this is an issue that is very impactful into our communities. And we're going to stand together and we're going to ask for legislation from the eyesight and accessibility of our children. This is a very important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And as I said, our goal is to get these flavorings out of Philadelphia. We know that is not going to be easy. That is going to involve a fight. And so we have someone who's going to speak next who says he likes a good fight, and that's because he knows how to fight. Back in help me what year it was, 89, 91? Okay, back in 1990, the Philip Morris Company decided to market a menthol cigarette specifically to African Americans, and they were going to launch it here in Philadelphia. Philadelphia stood up at the national level and stopped it. Mark Carell was among those people who achieved that victory and is here to talk today about our fight against menthol cigarettes more broadly. Mark Carell?
Good morning. I'm a former smoker too. My smoking career lasted a half a puff. When I was in the ninth grade, somebody try this. Half a puff, didn't work. I said, I don't understand why people do this. It's like death. So that's as far as my smoking career went. Literally half a puff. I prepared a statement today, but I want to share with you a couple of quotes to kind of give you a little background about why this is so important. In 1973, R.J. Reynolds did a study, some thoughts about new brands of cigarettes for the youth market. And in that report, it said, at the outset, it should be said that we are presently, and I believe unfairly constrained from directly promoting cigarettes to the youth market, that is, to those in the approximately 21-year-old and under group. Realistically, if our company is to survive and prosper over the long term, we must get our share of the youth market. In my opinion, this will require new brands tailored to the youth market. This was in 1973. In 1984, same company, R.J. Reynolds, in a report called The Importance of the Younger Adult. Why, then, are younger adult smokers important to R.J. Reynolds? Younger adults are the only source of replacement smokers. Repeated government studies have shown that less than one-third of smokers at that time, 31%, start at the age of 18, and only 5% of smokers start at the age of 24. This was inside information given to R.J. Reynolds' staff. Some of you might know the name of David Gerlitz. David Gerlitz was the former model for Winston cigarettes. He testified before the Subcommittee on Transportation and Hazardous Materials of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce in 1989. He was quoted as saying, "Of course, children aren't the only targets of the tobacco industry." Once, when he asked an R.J. Reynolds executive why his colleagues didn't smoke, the executive responded point blank, quote unquote, "We don't smoke that shit, we just sell it. We reserve that right for the young, the poor, the black, and the stupid." That's what our tobacco companies and big tobacco thinks about our communities, our children, our people. So a little over 25 years ago, Philip Morris, one of the most successful cigarette manufacturers, began spending $1.3 million over 3 years to subsidize the Mayor's Commission on Literacy here in the city of Philadelphia. Why did Philip Morris choose Philadelphia for its big literacy grant? For the same reasons R.J. Reynolds chose Philadelphia to test market the African-American targeted Uptown cigarette. At that time, cigarette companies considered Philadelphia with, and I quote, "few morals and fewer principles." So Philip Morris donated $1.3 million to prove it. R.J. Reynolds would have succeeded as well had it not been for the Coalition Against Uptown Cigarettes, led by Reverend Jesse Brown, of that time of the Christ Evangelical Lutheran Church, Dr. Carl M. Mansfield, who was then the president of the American Cancer Society's Philadelphia division, and a cross-section of community activists, including myself, who at that time was the community coordinator for the Why Smoke Project at Graduate Hospital. We defeated big tobacco in the city of Philadelphia. R.J. Reynolds spent millions of dollars in addressing every detail in designing the cigarettes, its packaging, and its marketing strategies. For example, the package was designed with black and gold colors that were deemed attractive to the African American market. Through focus group testing, R.J. Reynolds found that the African American blue-collar worker often opened their cigarettes from the bottom to avoid crushing the filter or putting unwashed hands on the part of the cigarette that goes into their mouth. So the cigarette was packaged with the filters down, the opposite of the standard packaging. They would also be offered in a 10-pack format, making them even more readily available for purchase. They also plan to introduce this brand during February, which is considered Black History Month. These tactics continue to be practiced when you see that Philadelphia's low-income neighborhoods have 60% more tobacco retailers overall and 63% more tobacco retailers within 500 feet of schools than higher-income neighborhoods. Tobacco retailers near schools place more tobacco marketing materials near products for children, such as candy, than tobacco retailers in other locations. In 2013, a study showed that stores in predominantly black neighborhoods in Philadelphia were 74% more likely to have tobacco ads near their children's products. Cheap candy, fruit, and menthol-flavored cigarillos are often packaged and sold in kid-friendly flavors and placed next to kids-oriented products that entice children to start smoking. 90% of smoking starts by the age of 18. And in 2014, 70% of teenagers who use tobacco reported using a flavored product within the last 30 days. Philadelphia has the highest youth tobacco sales violation rate in the state of Pennsylvania. In 2015, 23% of tobacco retailers in Philadelphia sold tobacco to youth, as demonstrated by Dr. Farley right here today. More than twice both the state average and the rate of the next highest county throughout this country. We have more than twice the number of retailers per capita than any other major U.S. city. And it's for these reasons that I asked the City of Philadelphia City Council to seriously consider a ban on these candy-flavored tobacco products and these menthol-flavored tobacco products for retail sale in the City of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have with us today Andrea Curtis, who is President and Chief Executive Officer of the Philadelphia Urban League.
Good morning. As Dr. Farley said, my name is Andrea Custis. I'm the new CEO for the Urban League of Philadelphia. I started in July. I'm trying to think of how long I can say I'm on my honeymoon, but I'm going to say the new CEO. First of all, Dr. Farley, thank you for your diligent work in this area, and also to all of my partners here. Thank you so much to the AKAs. I really wish that the Deltas were also here, pledged at Morgan Alpha Gamma, but we'll talk about that later. To the fabulous work that each of you have done, thank you so much. I believe when it comes to an area like smoking, it's not one person's issue, it is the entire community of Philadelphia. And what I'm so proud of is that we've come together, and there's so many more people who were not in the room who were also part of this journey and who we have their support. So I want you to know that the Urban League of Philadelphia has taken on the challenge of making our beloved city a smoke-free city, and we're very serious about that. So as you've heard today, I'm not going to reiterate, it has been far too long that we have permitted the tobacco companies to take on and to infiltrate in the black community and in the brown community, and to see us as a target for mentholated cigarettes and now for flavored cigarettes. So we're not going to sit down with this. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. The Urban League has been working with the CVS Health Group And so we have been running smoking cessation and education programs. We are committed to continue to do that. And of course, I would be remiss if we didn't have some lofty goals. We really want to be able to indirectly touch at least 300,000 individuals. So that's our number of what we want to touch. In terms of to stop smoking, if we could get 5,000 people to stop smoking, we will absolutely take that as a success. So we have a program called Empowered to Quit. We run it right in the Urban League Center, which is 121 Broad Street, right here, like arm's throw away. But we are also beginning to put programs into the community. We've just set one up in West Philadelphia, and we're going to try to do it in each area so that we go to the community in order to help folks quit. So our program is called Empowered to Quit. So anybody interested, anyone you know, we ask you to contact us at wellness@urbanleaguephila.org, and we also stand with you and adamantly stand with you. Persistently, we will stand with you to support banning tobacco products in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have two other representatives that were scheduled to be here today, but called off at the last minute, but are very much supportive of what we're talking about here today. That includes Representative Jordan Harris, that's state representative, and Howard James of the Mighty Mu Omega chapter of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So thank you very much for coming today, but I want to just open up if anybody has any questions before we close out. All right, so remember, today's Great American Smokeout. Tell smokers you know to quit, and tell everyone we want to get flavorings out of Philadelphia. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's get a picture of everybody.